Speaking of somebody who's just pure flames, all right, the absolutely spectacular Congresswoman Paulina Luna from the great state of Florida. Let's go.
Hey,
Congresswoman, thank you so much for being on the program. We're so excited to have you back in action. Congratulations on new baby.
Thank you. He's quite the hit. You know, if we didn't sort this out, I was going to nominate him next for speaker. So
I saw the amazing photo of you. Were you on the House floor with you holding your?
yeah,
What's his name? I apologize. What?
It's George Henry after my father, but yeah, I had him on the House floor, and his first vote, so we can bring kids to the floor, was for Jim Jordan. Obviously, you saw, unfortunately, that didn't go as we planned, but we do have quite the fighter. We're very excited about Mike Johnson.
So we're going to grab that photo. Let's go. This is such a cute photo, but please tell me more about Mike Johnson. We are sad to say we have never had him as a guest on the show. He's been somebody who's obviously like a workhorse and been working behind the scenes. We just went through a big, long list of great reasons to back and support him. Do you support him, and why?
Yeah, so I just want to give you guys kind of the inside tea as to what's been happening in Washington. So you guys know, just from what resurfaced on social and then from the reporters, there was a massive effort to really tank Jim Jordan's candidacy. But there's always the power struggle up here, right? And so there's a way that the vote count goes down in conference. That's been done historically since, I guess, the dawn of time, basically. But essentially, Mike Johnson, we actually pulled his voting record, and he is very conservative. He's arguably one of the most conservative speakers we'll probably ever have the opportunity to have. But he also has a very good grasp of being a fiscal conservative. And I think being up in Washington, many people forget how important the appropriations process is. And so he's even stated that we're going to be going back to those single subject bills, which is arguably the best way to handle what's happening right now with the debt. But I mean, even just on what you saw, he ran impeachment defense for President Trump. He's not afraid of saying the truth and the right things. And I do believe that for some of these investigations, right now being in Congress, that's really one of the few things that we're going to be able to do, because Senate is blocking a lot of our legislation. And he will absolutely allow us to be honey badgers, especially when it comes to going after the left and really exposing corruption in the U.S. government.
Come on, unpack that for me. What honey badger actions can we expect under a Speaker Mike Johnson?
Well, let me just put it this way. I'm on House oversight, and it was frustrating because it felt like some of the votes that we could bring to the floor to really kickstart the process on impeachment, it felt that they were slow rolled. And honestly, having him, especially being that he's a constitutional basically scholar, that he has been on judiciary, that he's been here, and he has an incredible grasp on what it means to be a republic, but also to be a patriot. We are very excited. There's some parliamentary measures that I really discovered in the last month and a half. When I was out with my baby, they told me that I couldn't vote. So I spent the time studying parliamentary procedure and how to use my toolkit. And so we are very excited about that. We need to get a speaker, and then we'll be unloading.
Fantastic. Will we be seeing subpoenas for the Biden family?
I think so. In fact, based on what we're already seeing now coming from Representative Comer, I think that you're going to see that. But I think that it needed to come from a strong leader that understands really what's on the line. And Benny, if you could have just heard the conversation yesterday in conference, there were some members that didn't show up to vote for whatever reason. I do believe, though, that Mike Johnson has overwhelming support. And we're even seeing that from representatives like Tony Gonzalez. But, with what he said in conference, he understands what's on the line here for our country. It's not just, politician speak where he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He is absolutely a believer in understanding that we are really up against a lot here, and that the administration and what they are currently pushing is anti-American, and that we have to stop it. And so he's going to be the fighter that we need. President Trump issued a pretty incredible statement for all the candidates on the forum yesterday, but we're excited. And what you're seeing is the Republican Party, I think, now increasingly becoming the party of the American people.
Do you believe that he will get it on the first ballot?
I think so. Yesterday in conference, even the ones that voted present came out today and said that they were supporting him. And to hear the cheers that were happening, I mean, he invited all the press in. He's not afraid of talking to the press, addressing them head on. He doesn't have anything that's really being held over his head that would maybe compromise him. So he's the guy we need.
I know that they take your phones and that they want these conferences to be secret, but could you give some insight into who, like Mike Johnson behind the scenes? Like, have you been able to work with him on anything?
Yeah. So
or what does he like? Yeah.
the minute that he was designated as the interim speaker or the speaker nominee, he actually gave us our phones back. And so what they were doing is there was such an issue with leaks and live leaking from the conference that they were having us leave our phones outside of conference. So we were in conference for 12 hours yesterday doing vote after vote after vote. And then in between those votes, it happened in January too. I don't know if many people know that when Representative Biggs ran against Representative McCarthy, that same process played out. But I think right now, because of the increasingly frustration with the American people are, and rightfully so, they're questioning why is this done in secret, but it's been done like this for a number of years. Frankly, it should just be in the public. That's kind of my opinion, but you'll see that even just having our phones back, he wants transparency. I know that might not sound like a lot, but I mean, they did have our phones and we weren't allowed to bring them in.
He's on government weaponization, which is a very based committee, and obviously the committee that you've seen. Like, we played the clip of him just like ripping the Yoel Roth on Twitter to a new one, and it's just straight into my veins. It's amazing to see somebody who's been such a strong defender for Donald Trump and on these committees, and not just like on appropriations. And I'm not trying to dunk on anyone. It's like, but there are committees where you go if you're a fighter, and he's on all the right committees, right?
He is, and he has, he has this street cred, as if you will, of actually following through. A lot of people will say and do one thing and then come to Washington and do the exact opposite. And as you saw, he might not be the most outward person on social media, but behind the scenes, he's been crushing it. And, I've been around him and seen him kind of operate. And I was even last week and the week prior when a lot of members went home, he actually was still here. And, I was eating dinner with my husband and my baby over at a local restaurant, and he was there with kind of the rest of the guys saying, like, how are we going to figure this out? And what he said yesterday to the press is important. He said, this group of people here, and it was a majority of the conference to include people from the more moderate sections to the very conservative sections of the conference. He said, these people are ready to govern. The reason I bring that up is because it did seem like yesterday in conference, there was an orchestrated effort to try to block him. And that quickly crumbled when we did the roll call vote and people had to stand up and say who they were voting for. But there was a lot happening behind the scenes in between the last couple of votes for candidates that I wish the American people could see. It's kind of a lot we can't really fully discuss. But the way that this turned out for the American people, it's a net positive.
So I know that you have to rush. You're on your way to the floor. They're going to start voting here in about 20 minutes. Final question for you, Congresswoman. What can we expect? What can we expect to see once you get back to work? Give us. People have been demoralized, right? People have been demoralized. They've been upset. They've been upset that all this is ground to a halt. Give us some hope. Like, what can we look forward to in the future?
The first thing is, although it might not be as sexy as the subpoenas, it's going to be those single subject spending bills, which is actually incredibly important for stopping the fiscal bleed that we're seeing in this country. So that's probably going to be one of the first things that you guys are seeing. Mike is anti-CR, and he's anti-omnibus. And so that's going to be something, that's our next fight. But I do believe that in regards to these committees, you're going to see a full unleashing of our ability, whether it's holding individuals in contempt, whether it's subpoena power and authority. And I do believe that you'll see a vote come to the floor on impeachment.
Wow. That will be a moment. I mean, that will be a moment.
What I tell people is just remember, being here, there's a lot that happens that we can't fully just because it's so quick moving. And then there's obviously strategy behind it, but just, there's some good people up here and we're fighting.
Fantastic. Well, Godspeed. You're one of the good ones. Anna, thank you, Congresswoman. Go vote.
Thank you.